I play Minecraft like this, flying around on Elytra with fully enchanted gear. But what if I tried to play the game like this? My name is Lily Diamond, and this is Learning to Speedrun as a Builder. I started watching a couple of speedrunners on YouTube, and all of them play on version 1.16.1, the Nether update, which is the best version for speedrunning, specifically because of piglets. This will become important later. For Minecraft speedruns, the goal is to beat the Ender Dragon as fast as possible, but to do that, you need to go to the end. And to open the end portal, you need Eyes of Ender, which are crafted with Ender Pearls and Blaze Powder. Since the fastest way to get Ender Pearls is to trade gold with piglins, and the only way to get Blaze Rods is in a fortress, it is imperative that we enter the Nether quickly. A typical run will look like this: get iron and food, enter the Nether, find a bastion, find a fortress, leave the Nether, find the Stronghold, and kill the dragon. As someone who already knew a lot about the overworld, especially structures and their loot, I didn't spend a lot of time learning about that. But the Nether was a different story. If I wanted to have a fast run, I needed to learn about bastion routes. Bastions are one of the two main structures in the Nether. They hold many piglins and a lot of gold, which makes them very useful for speedrunners. But as I would soon learn, they would become one of the more challenging aspects of the run. Piglins will give you ender pearls, obsidian, and some other things for gold. Runners have optimized bastions with special routes, maximizing the amount of piglins you trade with and gold you collect, while keeping the time short. But the problem is there are 4 types of bastions: treasure, stables, bridge, and housing. And the other problem is 3 of these have randomized top sections, known as ramparts. So in reality, I wasn't learning 1 route per bastion, a lot of times I was learning 2 or 3, which really started to add up. Housing was the most straightforward for me, as both top-down housing and manhunt always led to the same spot where the piglins hide all their gold. Bridge was also pretty easy to learn, but the randomization in the ramparts made the location I would end at vary from run to run. One of the bridge routes is my favorite name, DK, or Donkey Kong, so that was a joy to learn. Treasure has the same route nearly every time, but the amount of gold you get in top treasure is heavily randomized, making it frustrating if you have to trade at bottom treasure, which is the most dangerous route in the game. In addition, you often have to break this spawn. We'll talk about that later. And stables. Oh, stables. This bastion is a special snowflake because it's the only bastion where you can get no gold. Yeah, that's right. Stables has 2 gaps, which generate gold blocks when it's a good gap, and no gold blocks when it's a bad gap. The ramparts, when they have chests like this, are known as triple, and when they have 1 chest, it's a single, and if they have none, it's simply bad. Triples and stables have gold blocks beneath them, singles and bads do not. So theoretically, if you get a double bad gap and a triple bad, you have to hope that you get gold in the outer and lower chests, or it's kinda over. I also had to learn how to recognize these bastions, and to know what route to do, which I'm still learning today, especially for stables, given that I didn't even try to learn routes for it at first. But I've improved a ton since then. I was constantly hesitating and wasn't confident with routes or my gameplay. There's one other thing I learned during my first week, and that was one cycling. The Ender Dragon flies around the end, perching on the fountain every once in a while. One cycling refers to killing the Ender Dragon in 1 cycle, or 1 perch. This is done with beds and respawn anchors which explode in the end. It is all about timing. Clicking the bed when the Ender Dragon's head, this little green box, is over the pillow will yield the most damage. I was not good at this. In fact, I failed a lot. The dragon was too low and broke my bed, or I timed it wrong and did no damage, or I just messed up middle clicking and would place obsidian instead of a bed. It was a disaster. 4 was the minimum number of beds needed, and I was hitting the 9-bed 1 cycle, so not ideal. It would take a while, but eventually I got consistent at hitting 5 beds, which was way better. This week was all about cleaning up the rest of my gameplay. I had some idea of entering the Nether, but really could use practice building portals and lava pools. This is where the version difference really came back to bite me. 1.16 is, well, old-ish, and there are some game mechanics that have been fixed, one of which is ghost bucketing, where it visually looks like you've used your bucket, but in reality, it's empty. This messed me up occasionally and is definitely an inconvenience. Another change is that in the latest versions, closing your inventory while holding an item with your mouse will put it in your inventory. In 1.16, you will spit out the item, which happens more often than you'd expect. I've gotten used to the way it works in later versions and used that to loot chests faster and organize my inventory a bit, so unlearning that was also annoying. Before doing attempts, I finally learned how to route stables. Kinda. I learned how to tell if there is a good gap on either side by looking at this block and mining this block. I figured that most of the time, there will be at least one good gap, so I can just do a good gap route. It was time for my first few attempts. The goal? Get a time on the board. After dying twice and losing a run to the dragon, I started up my fourth run. It was messy. I ran into a lot of things I hadn't practiced, like making another portal underwater, managing my inventory, triangulating the Stronghold location, and navigating through it. But even with all these time losses, I got a 1 hour, 14-second completion.
Let's go! Oh my gosh, I did it. Oh, I did it.
These first few runs were also my practice for using the F3 screen. I had seen other runners use this, so I kinda picked up a lot of things from them. To find bastions in the Nether, look at this part of the screen, which shows entities in your field of view. So if you change your FOV to 30, and look for where this number spikes up, the bastion, where tons of piglins spawn, is likely in that direction. If you open up the pie chart with F3 and Shift, you can navigate to this section to see if there's a spawner within your render distance. This is for finding a fortress which has blaze spawners, and the reason why we break the spawner in treasure bastions. Simply lower your render, then increase it by 1 until you find the exact number of chunks away it is. You can then re-lower it all the way and move around to different chunks and re-increase it to see if you get closer or further away. That's how runners find fortresses. One other use of this screen is knowing your chunk coordinates, seen here. Buried treasures always spawn on 9-9, and the Stronghold entrance is always on 4-4. After getting my first completion, I did a few more runs that day, and hit my first sub-hour. By all accounts, it shouldn't have beaten my previous PB, but my blind portal, the one I used to leave the Nether, was half as far away. I got super lucky in the Stronghold immediately finding the portal room, and hesitated a lot less on entering the end. The one cycle wasn't that clean, as I hadn't really figured that one out yet, but I ended with a 56:45, beating my previous PB by 4 minutes. Now I had a goal in sight. Get a sub 30-minute run. The very next day I would be on track for my fastest run yet, and the best part? I didn't even visit a bastion. I entered the Nether with 5 gold blocks and would use a strategy called Classic, the original way people speedrun this version, mining gold and trading it with random piglins. The problem? I only got 3 obsidian. 10 is needed to build the portal, but I kept going. Maybe I would find some in the fortress, I thought. Little did I know, the one piglin I found near the fort would give me 4 obsidian with just 13 gold. And right next to the fort was a ruined portal with just enough obsidian for me to complete it. And just like that, it was my fastest Nether exit ever. The Stronghold was 1900 blocks away, but I didn't know that. I kept running and my eyes kept breaking. I specifically left on 8 blaze rods so I wouldn't have to worry about not having enough to open the portal. But Minecraft had other plans. After breaking 5 eyes of Ender, I only had 11 left. If the portal did not have at least 1 eye filled in, the run was dead. I dug down, not sure if I would hit it, because if I threw another eye and it broke, my chances went down drastically. I hit the Stronghold, but was in the middle of nowhere. I wanted to find the starter staircase, where the Stronghold begins generation from, because that's the best location to start looking for the portal from. But I was so lost. I still needed it to be a 1 eye. The run must be dead, I thought. And then, I found it. It had 3 eyes already filled in. The run was alive. I only had 7 beds though. I had hit 5 bed 1 cycles in testing pretty consistently, but every other completion I had done, I used 8 beds to kill the dragon. After using glowstone dust to double the amount of arrows I had, I jumped in the portal. The dragon perched just a few minutes later, and...
Oh, I did it! I hit the 7 bed!
I killed the dragon. Despite everything that happened in the run, I completed with a new PB, 51:25. 5 minutes faster than my 56-minute run. But the day wasn't over. I loaded into an ocean seed, one of the fastest types of seeds to play out, if you're not me. But that wouldn't stop me. The insane 1140 Nether ender put me right next to my closest bastion yet. Unfortunately, it was Stables, my weakest bastion. And not only that, it was double bad gap, so there was no gold in the bottom of the bastion. The only routes I knew relied on having at least one good gap, which I didn't have. So I created what will soon be known as the double triple tweaker route. The fastest ever completion of it is in 10 minutes, so you know it's a quick route. Luckily, the fortress was really close, and I was on pace with my 51 PB, except for the fact that I didn't spend multiple minutes in the fort trading with a random piglin, so I gotta leave 5.5 minutes earlier. This blind was somehow even worse than the 51 run, as it was 2100 blocks away. So I took a trip to Narnia for 12 minutes, found the Stronghold, and instantly found the portal room, in just 30 seconds. This will not become a common occurrence. Using the beds I borrowed from a village, I was ready to enter the end with 11 beds. There is no way I fail 11 bed one cycle, surely. And then I missed the perch while killing an enderman. Oops. But the dragon felt bad for me, so she instantly perched again. Knowing how many extra beds I had, I could play it safe, and didn't have to worry about timing my beds that much. Just kidding, I hit the 5 bed. I really didn't have to go to that village, did I?
I did it.
But I did it, getting a new PB of 45:10, 6 minutes faster than previously. The next day, I finally watched a video, partially about one cycling, partially about strongholds, and realized I had been doing it kinda wrong. The way the dragon flips matters. You want to be on the side that the dragon's head arches around. This explains some of my sketchier one cycles. And then, I finally did it. I got a recording of me hitting the 4 bed on a practice map. It was time to lock in. I needed to learn about Stronghold triangulation. I had lost a lot of time to walking in the overworld for thousands of blocks, and going to 2nd and 3rd ring portals did not help. What are rings, you might ask? Well, strongholds in Minecraft can generate in these ring shapes. The easiest way to see this is to go to chunk base and just click random seed. No matter what seed you get, the strongholds are still in this pattern. Speedrunners use this to get better places to blind portal, or leave the nether from. This will help me have less distance to walk if I only use one portal. But wait, does that imply I could use 2? Absolutely. Asking our good friend Pythagoras, we can use right triangles to find the stronghold. But don't worry, if we use Ninja Brain's axis travel method, as long as the setup is correct, the hard math is done for us. The rest is just adding and subtracting. By throwing one eye vendor on the corner of a chunk, writing down the angle, and using the sub-chunk lines to turn 90 degrees and run to the next chunk border, we can throw a second eye, noting the angle difference and construct our very own triangle. This is how we can get a rough estimate of where the stronghold is, and if we go back to the nether, we can build a second portal on those coordinates. But once I'm in the stronghold, then what? Well, it's time to open F3 again. Getting the pie chart back up, we can navigate to a different section. The portal room has a spawner in it, so we can use this orange slice, entities, to try and find a spike. This is called preemptive, and when used correctly, can help you instantly find the portal room. So I booted Minecraft back up, got the stronghold charts ready, and practiced a bit. Turns out, it's really hard, and I ended up not doing great. But after getting some practice, I felt ready to speedrun again. I started getting a bit more aggressive with resetting the overworld, as I don't want to spend a lot of time in a world that I can't enter faster than my previous runs. This ended up working out. I had entered at 9:52, my fastest yet, and I held that pace, entering the bastion faster than previously, then the fort, and finally, I blinded at 26:27, 30 seconds faster than my 45 PP. And I decided to measure where the stronghold was, 0.3 angle change. That means the stronghold is 3,000 blocks away. Worst case scenario. But I had 10 extra obsidian. This was my chance. I calculated exactly where to build the portal to hopefully hit the stronghold. I ran there in the nether, hurling along the way. I could save this. I hit a wall in the Nether, had to make more pickaxes, but kept going. The time was ticking. I was almost 37 minutes in. I had to hit this. But I didn't. I measured a 0.3 angle change, but it was actually 0.4. The Stronghold was not 3,000 blocks away. It was 2,300. I did all I could to get to the Stronghold in time, but I entered at 44:28. It took 7 minutes to get there, and just 2 minutes to find the portal room. Almost an instant nav. And then, with 10 beds, I choked. I missed the one cycle, then I missed it again. It was over. I finished the run with 10 minutes spent in the end.
Oh my gosh, how long did I spend in the end? 5 years?
56:33. This was worse than what I had done just a week ago. But it was just a fluke, right? I played the run well, but just didn't quite close it out. Later that day, I installed Speedrun IGT, so I could have a timer that I could see in-game. This helped a lot with realizing how long certain things took. Like if I saw I was in the overworld at 10 minutes with no Nether enter in sight, it was obviously a reset angle. I got a good ocean seed, again, and decided to play it out. After another patented 3-minute underwater Nether portal, maybe I should learn how to do that correctly. I was looking for a bastion, and it was close. A new fastest bastion enter, and this time, it was bridge. I did a triple route with the near-death modification and was out in 8 minutes, which wasn't ideal, but I played it out. I entered the fort really late compared to other runs, but I used a strat called Blaze TNT to blow up blocks around the blaze spawner, so I could get more spawns and spend less time in the fortress. I ran to better coordinates to blind from and measured my eyes. It was time for Axis travel to shine. I calculated the Stronghold was 1,800 blocks away. I ran towards the Nether coordinates, but realized I didn't have enough obsidian for a second portal. I only had 6 left over. I had told myself I was going to use my diamond pickaxe to mine my first portal for the extra obby, but I forgot, wasting 2 minutes backtracking. When I got back to the overworld, it was 40 minutes in, and I missed again. This time, being off by just 25 blocks in the Nether, translating to 200 in the overworld. I entered the Stronghold at 44 minutes, entering the end just 2.5 minutes later with 14 beds. The one cycle was not clean by any means, but I killed the dragon in 7 beds, getting a 48:56. Again, I had finished with a slower time than just a week ago, and while frustrating at the time, I'd realized that I simply just spent way too much time in the bastion, and way too much time getting to the fort. It became clear that I'd have to clean up my game. I learned how to build another portal in underwater ravines, I got better at inventory management, and I worked on spending less time hesitating. The next day, I was on great pace. A 6-minute Nether enter followed by a 10-minute bastion enter. And after already seeing the fort, getting there was fast. Once I had all my blaze rods, I left the Nether at just 20 minutes. I measured my eyes and got a 9.6 degree angle change, which was so close it wasn't even on the chart, less than 150 blocks away. I was in the Stronghold 16 minutes faster than my previous PB. This was the run. I found the portal room quickly, crafted up plenty of beds, and entered the end, just 26 minutes in. And as the dragon perched, I got ready to hit the one cycle. Is what I wish I could say. Let's go back to what really happened. I tried to use preemptive to find the portal room, but I didn't lower my FOV and ended up detecting a different spawner and both the libraries. I ended up spending 4 minutes wandering around the Stronghold before I found the portal. And then I realized I forgot to mine wood to craft beds with. I entered the Stronghold at almost 24 minutes, and entered the end at 30. But I could still PB, after all, this was the earliest I'd ever entered the end. I had so much time, right? And then I missed the perch, and then failed the one cycle. I still had lots of arrows and shot down all the crystals, but the dragon, after its third perch, was still alive, and I was low. I had no food left, and had to play very safe if I had any hope of beating this. With 2 hearts left, no sprint, and no arrows, I had my mouse just a bit too low, and stared at an enderman, just barely. And the run was over. I choked the best pace I had ever been on to Stronghold navigation and the end fight. It was devastating. The rest of the day, I kept playing, just trying to make something work, and I was getting faster Nether enters, thanks in part to the underwater portal practice, but the runs just kept ending in the Nether. Either there was no terrain, or I just died in the bastion. Then I found this one seed. I entered at 6:23, just a bit faster than the run I had choked. And then I entered the bastion at 8 minutes and 46 seconds. This had to be the run. After spending 7 minutes in the bastion, I only had 14 pearls and enough obsidian for one portal. A far cry from my other runs, but I just had to send it. I lost a lot of time in the bastion and going to the fortress too, but I was definitely on pace for a PB. I left the fortress with 7 rods and blinded at 23 minutes in. I decided not to do triangulation, but if I had, I would have seen that the Stronghold was just 600 blocks away. I got there at 29 minutes and entered the end at 31. I couldn't let anything go wrong. Not again. The dragon perched after an insane 50 seconds from me entering the end. And so... Yes! Yes! I got a new PB, beating my previous one by almost 13 minutes. Now, I knew I could do better. I knew I could reach sub 30, so I rewatched all my runs and realized I needed to learn how to hotkey. My keyboard is laid out like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, WASD, E, and F are normal, but my R key is the 5th slot, Z, X, and C are the 6th, 7th, and 8th slot, and Q is my 9th slot, with Alt being my drop item key. But the only slots I was confident on hotkeying to were my 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 7th slots, which made me get into the bad habit of putting everything in my 7th slot. Need to stack up? Blocks in 7. Need to fill in the portal? Eyes in 7. Need to throw gold to piglins? Gold in 7. Need to shear sheep? Shears in 7. I ended up having awful looking hotbars, which wouldn't help me if I was in a bad situation or just trying to play the game faster. I started forcing myself to hotkey and to stop scrolling, especially when I was playing in my survival world. For the end fight, my hotbar should always be axe, sword, pickaxe, pearls, bed, boat, bow, crossbow, blocks, respawn anchor, and glowstone. For the rest of the run, I'm still working on it. There's a boat that goes in there somewhere, and I should probably have an ender pearl slot and fire res too. I also learned a little bit about fast looting, but I definitely need to work on that before it becomes faster than how I do it now. The next day came by, and I thought, might as well boot up some runs. I was so close to that magical sub 30. I just need to be consistent and play well. A couple seeds went by, nothing special, and then I load into what I can only describe as the craziest seed I've ever gotten. I spawned next to a completable ruined portal, which I could have entered at like 20 seconds in. Now, obviously that's a bad idea, so I spent 3 minutes gathering resources in the village, and entered the most precarious nether yet. After mining through a wall, I found a stables bastion, and melee killed a ghast. I was out of there in 6 minutes, and on my way to the fort with so many pearls. I had all my rods at 1925. The only other run near this pace was the sub 30 I failed. I measured my eyes in the overworld and got a 2.3 degree angle change. The Stronghold was close. 400 blocks stood between me and the end portal. This time, I remembered to grab wood for my beds, and as I boated towards the coordinates, I saw it. Not just the Stronghold, but the portal room too. I entered the end at 25 minutes with 9 beds and 1 anchor. All I needed was the dragon to perch within 4 minutes, and I could beat the seed in under 30. But, almost like some cruel twist of fate, the dragon starts perching at 29 minutes and 50 seconds. And even worse, I failed the 1 cycle. I scramble around the end, eventually beating the dragon and ending the run with a time of 34:50. Almost 10 minutes spent in the end. This was my wake-up call. I was doing something wrong. In every practice map, the dragon was perching in a straight line, but in all my runs, the dragon was diagonal. Turns out, the dragon's perch angle depends on where you stand. Maybe I should have watched an in-depth video of one cycling before doing runs. I loaded up the practice maps and started working on getting the setup and entire end fight down. I was not going to lose another run to the dragon. Quick tangent, I realized how slow I was by not using my ender pearls to traverse the nether, so I practiced just running around the nether throwing pearls. It was kind of fun. Alright, tangent over. It was time to attempt more runs. I was on a good pace, not PB, but definitely good. A quick bastion, a good fort, but I had trouble getting to the stronghold, trouble finding the portal, and ended up losing to the dragon again. I just got there too late and messed up the one cycle. Back to end practice. Spend the next day just grinding out end fights, not doing any runs, which took a lot out of me. And by the time I started doing runs again, I felt a lot better. I just needed to put all the pieces together. The first run of the day, I got a 5-minute underwater nether enter, but there's no bastion in 32 chunks. Unlucky. The next run, 7-minute nether enter. I get to the bastion at 11, mine and punch through a wall, and I find the fortress at 22 minutes. Getting to the overworld just 3 minutes later. The stronghold is 1,300 blocks away. I end up getting there 34 minutes in, and enter the end shortly. But then I'm late again. I miss the one cycle, the run's over. I roll another suit. 4:30 enter. I have blocks, I have food, and a bastion in render distance. I get there at 8 minutes, and I'm ready to leave at 14 minutes. But there's no blaze spawner in 32 chunks. I think I said it best.
Well, sometimes the runs die before they really could begin.
Well, it was getting late. I figured the next run that made it to the nether would be my last for the night. I loaded into a village seed, and was happy that I didn't have to play another ocean seed that day. I got a pretty garbo blacksmith, and killed the golem, who dropped 3 iron, the minimum. I was not thrilled.
And it's 3 iron after woodlight.
Wood lighting meant I had to wait for the wood to catch fire in order to light my portal, as I didn't have enough iron for flint and steel. But to build a portal, I needed a bucket. Do I have to go mining for iron? The answer? No. Fishermen can trade you a fish and a bucket for 3 emeralds, which is way faster than mining. I entered the nether 6 minutes in and went to E-Ray. And then, this happened.
Fort, bastion, oh my god.
In what can only be described as the sequel to my Stables double-triple tweaker route, I created the Bridge Woodlight route, a secret technique passed down from my ancestors. After completing the bastion route, and gathering up all the stuff I needed, I pearled over. I said I pearled over? Why are we? I guess that works too. I pearled over to the fortress, only to find myself in the back rooms. And to top everything off, the spawner room was covered in lava. This run was just so funny. After gathering the rods, I blinded at 15 minutes. And that's where it started to sink in. No matter how questionably I played the bastion, or how silly the fort was, I had to get to the stronghold fast. And most importantly, not mess up the end fight. This was my best pace ever. I blind and end up in a cave, which loses me a minute. And when I dig up, I'm in a second village. I decide to pretend to eye measure to intimidate the villagers, and then run off like 50 blocks, and then measure for real. And then I give up once it goes in a tree. You can tell I was very sleepy, but no matter. I ran, and also used pearls finally, to get to the stronghold at just 23 minutes. There was only one problem. I ran around looking for the portal for a good 2 minutes, and now I was on a bit of a time crunch. I entered the end at 26:30. 9 beds, 2 anchors, but needed the dragon to perch within 2.5 minutes to get sub 30. And more importantly, I needed to actually hit the one cycle. At 28:30, the dragon turned to perch. I'll let you watch the rest.
Yes! Oh my gosh, I got it. Sub 30. I did it.
This has been Lily Diamond. See you next time. Hey, I just want to say thank you everyone for all the support last video. It means the world to me. This video is my longest yet, but I have just enjoyed speedrunning so much that I had to share. And if you want, I have some of my runs posted on playlist, which should be on screen right now. More videos coming soon. Don't forget to subscribe and have a great day!